Hey, Tom here, FlipAnything USA. Kind of a late start for Wednesday night. Been trying to keep that 7 p.m. deal Central Time, but hasn't been happening since I started taking vacations here lately. So it may be late for a lot of you. I know it's 11 o'clock East Coast. But I thought, I'd talk about getting started, because I know it's the hardest thing to do, is getting started. And it's the most important thing you can do. If you're going to start making money in anything, or get busy on anything in any kind of business venture, you got to get started. And I know some people have a harder time than others, and it's not always about money. Sometimes it's just about taking action. And adjusting my screen here at the same time, folks. And so my experience in getting things rolling is just first taking that first little step. I mean, everything starts with an idea, right? Whether you're gonna decide you're gonna start investing in real estate, or maybe you're gonna just start flipping things. Looks like my camera might be a little blurry here. You guys have to tell me if you can see me okay. I think it looks better now. I think it was pretty blurry there in the beginning. But all I can tell you is I'm 55 years old now, and I've had a great life. I've had fun since I was 19. I can't even read what you got there. Sorry, guys. Let me see if I can read that. Okay, oh good. Thanks, Khalid. Yeah. And let me see here. I'm actually getting it going here so I can, what I do is I key it up on my laptop, and then I can see your questions. And I just got to make sure I turn the volume off so I don't, so we don't have feedback. So, but what I was going to say is, and what I like sharing with you guys, because I think most of you are younger. Actually, why don't we do I see we got a few people watching here. Let's take a poll here. What are the ages of everybody watching? Okay, so 55 here, right? How about you, Khalid? How old are you? "21." Awesome. So come on, we got more people out there. How old is everybody watching? I guess not everybody's watching. Maybe a subscriber. So I don't even know how it works if you can key in otherwise. But I can see we got people watching. So what I like is that you guys are young. A lot of you, not all of you. But like Chaz. I think Chaz is about 36. I may be wrong. I don't know. Maybe he's even watching. Maybe not tonight. But here's the beauty: is it doesn't matter when you start, because you can make a lot of money so quick. I mean, how much of a difference will $100,000 make in your life right now? I think it'd make a lot, right? It's the difference of, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference in your life. If you can make $100,000, or even $10,000 can make a hell of a difference. I know, I've been there. And maybe the younger you are, the more it means to you. But mainly it's getting that seed. It's getting that seed capital going. That you'll keep perpetuating into more and more and more. So I think about, so what are the elements involved with getting started? What does it take? So first you got an idea, and you kind of decide what you want to do, right? That's kind of how I am. Now I keep things a little bit broad, and when I say broad, what I mean is, if I got a little bit of money to invest, I don't keep it so narrow that I can only do one thing with it, So I look at more than just one thing, so that but something within that broad scope that I'm looking at of opportunity. Like right now, I'll give you an example. Like I've been wanting to buy another big commercial building. I'd like to buy some commercial property, meaning storefront, commercial type stuff. That's what I've mostly been kind of wanting to find here lately. Last two purchases I bought have been pretty big. About $3.5 million. The last two purchases, on some commercial stuff. Not my last two. I bought houses, as you guys know, but I haven't been able to find the buildings that I've been wanting to buy primarily. So what have I done? I bought a lake house for 80 grand, worth probably 300, 320. I don't even know. Although the tile just got finished up, by the way, which you'll see a video on that. All the tiles done. I was just walking through it, I don't know, a couple hours ago. I took my son out there, and everything looks great. Still dirty. I got to clean everything up, but the tile's done. But because I had about 400 grand together that I wanted to put down and buy something for maybe $2 million, 20% down. But I haven't been able to find the right deal. Then, of course, what came along, this actually a house before the lake house came along. I bought that, paid cash, and I kind of got that for some friends that wanted to buy it. They couldn't pay cash for it right away, so I bought it, and then I gave them 3 months to get their financing together, and then they did, and then I sold it to them for what I paid for it. But they found the deal. But my deal was, if they didn't get the money together in 3 months, I would just keep it, because it was a very good deal, and I helped them close it. And I paid cash for it, but they got their money together, and then they took it over, and they're good friends, and now they got a nice place, and so it worked out really, really quite well. And so I got that money back. Then started the channel. Then found the lake house while I was teaching you guys. And so even though I didn't get the commercial building I was looking for, I wasn't just so focused on buying a commercial building that, you know what I mean? I kept it kind of broad. That's kind of the point I was getting at. And all of a sudden, wow, there's a fantastic deal on this lake house. So I bought it. Then a couple months later, I found what's called the 3-day deal. If you want to look at one of the videos before this, the 3-day deal. And I paid cash, $160,000 cash. I mean, the house is probably going to sell for $299 when I sell it. That's about what it's worth. In fact, I had to go negotiate the taxes. The tax assessor had it assessed higher than I paid for it, and I said, "Hey, look, this is what I paid for it." They kind of obligated to market to the value that you purchase it for. And believe me, they didn't buy that it was worth $160, and we actually settled it up on a little higher value than that because it's worth more, obviously. But either way, that's the kind of deals you want that are so obviously good that you have to argue with the tax assessor that's taxing you that you're trying to argue down that it's worth what you paid for it. So, but my point is that even though I couldn't find a commercial building, I didn't just sit there and do nothing. And since then, what I do, I bought Lake House, bought the 3-day deal, $200,000 for sure I'm going to make on the Lake House, $100,000 I'm sure I'm going to make on this other deal. So there's $300,000 that I'm going to make with money that I've been trying to put aside for a commercial building. So now, yeah, I have some money tied up, although on the lake house I actually got that 100% financed. So now I still have about $200,000 to play with right now, maybe a little bit more now, but and that's not going to get me a $2 million piece of commercial real estate. All right, hey, good Dakota, glad you're on, man. Hadn't seen your name in a while, so glad you're on. So now I don't have enough money to buy the commercial building, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to make 300 grand on the stuff that I did buy. I still have $200,000 available to me, and to be honest, I mean, I have lines of credit. I can get a pretty good chunk of money together if I want to. So if a $2 million deal came along, you know what? I have 200 grand or a little more than that probably readily available, maybe more than that, but I'm just use that as a round number. That's kind of on average what I have in that particular account, in that entity, to buy something. And so now, though, ideally, if I found something for $2 million, I could go grab another 200,000. I can just get it. I can get it on one of my lines, but or maybe I'll find something for $1 million and buy it. Or what's most likely to happen is I'm going to find another house for 200,000 that's worth maybe 300, and that's what I'll buy. But I'm keeping my money working. I'm keeping it working for me, and that's why I say, because some people have it in their head, I'm gonna buy a duplex, I'm gonna buy a house, and you know what? You got to have it a little broader than that. I mean, because something may come along and it's going to slip right by you, and it might be 10 times the deal that you would have got on the house that you've been waiting to buy. And like I say, I'm going to extend it to things too, right? I say flip things, flip anything. You know, I don't know if you saw, but in the 3-day deal, there was this stove. I don't know why. You know, there's no reason to have a stove at this property. I mean, it's warm here, and so I pulled that stove out, and I sold it on Craigslist for, you know, I don't know, $300 or something. Uh, and you know, I've got that. You know, I bought that roll top desk for $200, right? Well, I put that on Craigslist for 1,000. No bites yet. You know, I'll probably lower it to 800 next week. And you know what? If no bites, I'll lower it to 600. I'm sure it'll sell for 600. And but I'll make $400 on that, right? And it just, all it's doing is, it took me the time it took me to load it on a truck, or actually pay somebody, because I had guys moving stuff around. They, you know, they moved it from a house to the one of my buildings. It's sitting on a loading dock in one of my buildings. And when it sells, boom, I'll sell it to somebody, presumably for $600 or more, and I'll make $400 on that. And you know, I like making $400. I like making a few $100. You know, I know it may seem small in comparison to some of the deals in real estate, but you know what? It's still money, and that's what you got to remember. I come from zero, so I come from nothing. So I still value money. I know what money. You know, I value $100, a few $100. So, but is there anything stopping you guys from getting going? I mean, what are the challenges? What are you running into right now? I'd like to know what your fears are, because usually it's fear that usually gets in the way of everything. I got to say, I don't have much fear, but I also part of it is, and I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. He was talking about, you know, his wife. He said, she won't buy on intuition at all. You know, she just has no intuition at all, or gut feel. You know, gut feel to me is intuition. And you know, when I have a gut feel, and my friend too, he's very much like me. Wife support difficult to navigate. Ooh, that's interesting. Oh yeah, paralysis by analysis. We've talked about that, Khalid. Yeah, and I borrowed that from somebody else. I read that from a book a long time ago, and because dude, people just analyze. And to be honest, my dad was that way. My dad would just think about stuff forever and not get around to doing it. But he's a great man. He's a super smart guy too. I miss him so much. But anyways, so Matt, expand on that, would you? Wife support difficult to navigate, because that could be a good topic. Let me tell you, my wife, I pull up in front of a house or a building, she'll say, "Why are we stopping here?" And I go, "Oh, well, I bought this." Oh, you know, that's how much my wife is more so now than before, because now my kids are more grown, so I've actually tasked her with managing some of the properties that we own. I have her manage some of the bigger buildings, to be honest, because they're actually the easiest ones to manage. But not complaining about the wife. She's been a good stay-at-home mom. She's educated the kids, you know, beyond the school that they get in school. So paying my tribute to the wife. She's done a good job. But okay, so here we go, Matt. So after successful deals over a couple years time, wife panics and not supportive of alternate methods. Okay, so your wife's got the fear, correct? Oh yeah. Okay, let me just tell you something about this. This reminds me of something, okay? Okay, in commercial. So I get it, Matt. I mean, I can't relate to it, to be honest. I was 27 years old when I married my wife, or I'm sorry, when I met my wife, who was probably 18, okay, quite young. And now a lot of years have passed. But the bottom line is, I was buying and selling real estate before I met her. You know, she didn't have a clue about real estate. She was 18, and you know, I just didn't function any differently. I just kept buying and selling real estate just like I'd always had after I met her, just like I had for the years before I met her. And so for her, you know, it was me, like, you know, I might as well have worked at a shoe store and going to the shoe store and doing my shoe business. You know, not everybody not everybody's involved with their husband's business. And I know a lot of people find it surprising that, or have, that my wife's not involved with my business, which is buying and selling real estate. But it's not that surprising. I mean, how many people's wife are really interested in what you do at work? If you're a plumber, a carpenter, or whatever, I don't know. I don't think much. And but I think, typically with real estate, I think what it is it's such a big investment. Yeah, the fear is. I mean, what's more common why the wife is involved is because sometimes she's at risk with you. She's getting in a debt and getting in a loan with you, all that sort of thing. But see, that's not the case with me, so I can't quite relate to that. Like a lot of people probably can. So I got to be, just want to be fair disclosure on that. So, yeah. So Highland Hedge, the fear is having an economic collapse. Okay. That's a get. I mean, I get it. But what's your hedge against economic collapse? Believe me, I worry about that crap all the time. Okay, so my hedge is, I buy it far under market value. That's your hedge. Okay, that's your hedge against, if it's worth 200 and you're going to buy it for 150, you got a $50,000 cushion, a $50,000 panic escape time. That if things start to go downhill, boom, put it up for sale, get rid of it. Because as values drop, and let's just say it's worth 200 and you paid 150, and now it's worth 190 and it's going to be worth 180 next month. Well, you've got time. You've got time to get rid of it. Get rid of it make a $10,000 profit or a $20,000 profit. And like I talk about my old buddy Hank. He was a fireman that was a fireman 3 days a week, and then when he wasn't a fireman, he was looking for investments, and he owned millions and millions of dollars of real estate in Los Angeles. And I met him. He was also a builder developer, kind of like what I do, and so he would always say, "You can't get hurt taking a profit." And I sold him a couple of my buildings. So okay, so Michael Johnson. Let's see. The concept of being rich or wealthy is very basic common sense. Buy something cheap and resell it for higher price and repeat the process. Doesn't matter whether it's food or economics, etc. Okay. I nothing to argue with or disagree there. But wealth is relative. You can make $100,000 a year and be rich. You can make $1 million. You can make 10 million. It's kind of relative to really kind of your spending habits and what you do with it. I'll be honest. It's funny. I was in a conversation with some lawyers. That's about a year ago, and anyhow, we were talking about. I can't give you all the details. We were talking about something, and we're talking about judging the wealth of somebody that was involved in something, and they said, well, they're driving a 2006 something or other, and I laughed and I told them, I said, hey, listen, I said, I'm driving a 2006 truck, okay, and I can drive anything I want. So it really isn't a great indication of what somebody's worth, because, like I said, I can drive any car you can imagine. I could drive it, I could buy it, I could own it. But you know what? Cars don't do it for me. I just don't get a charge out of a Ferrari or whatever. It's just not what I want. I'd much rather buy a 2 or 3 bedroom house that's worth $300,000 for $200,000 than I would to buy a little Lamborghini Countach or whatever. And so instead of cars, I like buildings. I like, you know what I mean? So some people might have a nice Ferrari. I got a nice building, or I got a nice house, or I got a nice this or that. That's real estate. That's what I like. Well, now, Matt, I got to tell you about cars a little bit, okay? Because I flipped a few cars between the age of 15 and 21. I probably went through 12, 15 cars, and I made anywhere from $500 to $1,000 on each car. And so there is money in cars. There is money in cars. In fact, a guy told me today, and I'm actually thinking about the car business a little bit right now. And I'll tell you in what respect. I have 3-acre property that I went to rezone. I rezoned it commercial. And when I went to rezone it, the staff advises council. And so whenever you go to rezone it, you have to go before staff. And the staff actually has the greatest influence. And the staff advises council. So what staff had told me, or told my representative, I didn't mess with it. I had a lot going on. But they said, well, we'll support the commercial zoning. They'll go, but we want to prohibit car sales, which I didn't like at all. But I said, okay, you know what? I got them on board for doing the commercial zoning. So I said, okay, boom, we'll do it. So we rezoned it commercial, prohibiting the car sales. Well, now, so I got most of what I wanted, right? So now I'm going back and going to rezone again for exactly the same zoning, except now this time I'm going to fight for car sales because I want to be able to have car sales on that lot. But back to car sales for a second, Matt. But a guy told me today that I know, and he's dying to get in the car business, and I may end up doing some little joint venture with him to some degree. That's one of the reasons I want to rezone this property. So I've got this property I've got down the street from an Audi dealership, and I don't know what the other one is. It's either BMW or something. It's not BMW, but I don't know. We're talking about new car dealerships. But I have a nice lot down the street from an Audi dealership that's fairly new, and so they shouldn't deny me the zoning for cars when I've got a like kind business right down the street, and especially actually I got them on both sides of me, So that's when you go to rezone something, you'll find out that sometimes neighborhoods are crying, complaining, different people. Sometimes somebody wants to act like they're the sheriff of the neighborhood, and they like to impose their power or whatever they want to do, and I've dealt with those kinds of guys before, and that's a whole nother episode. But the bottom line is, what's fair is fair, what's right is right, and you fight for what is fair zoning for you and what works for you, and you should get it. But back to the car, I would not say it's when you're talking about flipping cars. This guy told me today. He said he just bought a Cayenne, a Porsche Cayenne. He said he bought it for $5,200, and he sold it for $9,800 the next day, and he bought that at an open auction. So he made $4,000 on a car, a little more than $4,000, and so that's pretty good. Make $4,000 in a day. You know what I mean? Flipping a car, and even if it took all month, that's not bad. So I would say as long as you know what you're looking at. Let's see. Audi and BMW, they have this city in their hip pocket. Yeah. Well, there's all sorts of, we can talk about that. But the bottom line is, you have an argument for your zoning if there's like kind properties near you. In fact, I've got property a rock's throw from here. I bought it. I rezoned it for apartment buildings. I rezoned 50 acres for apartment buildings. Made the value much, much, much more valuable. And ultimately, it's got 180 houses on it. But by getting such a great zoning on what I got on that property, it made it much easier for them to agree to the lesser zoning, which was a high density homes, which is what we ultimately did. Okay, so Dakota, I think I'm going to take a break from work for personal health reasons and travel for a few months. Well, that sounds awesome. I have my 40K to invest. Any ideas on what I could flip to further build my cash until I'm ready to buy a commercial property? Keep in mind, I'll be on my laptop somewhere overseas. Dakota, I watch my properties like a hawk. Everything I do, I watch them. I'm involved. I'm engaged. So you're not going to have that ability. As far as passive income, I don't know. I don't know your exact situation. In all honesty, if I felt comfortable and take off, I'd probably just put the money in the bank, so I know it's going to be there when I get back. Because you don't want to throw it in something, go overseas, and then all of a sudden have things go wrong, and now you're worried about this substantial nest egg that's in jeopardy. So probably I'd just stick it in the bank myself, unless you can sink it into something before you leave. But that's the thing, you sink it into something, then you got to usually watch that something, whatever it is. So Yeah, I don't have any great advice for that for sure. Um, but it sounds really cool what you're about to do. I was in Amsterdam not that long ago, and man, what a beautiful area. It was really wonderful, and there's a lot of pretty places in the world. Been to China, seen some really cool places in China, and Taiwan I don't love, but I've been there too. I want to go to the wine country in Chile, and there's some things I want to do. I'm going to go to Napa here in a month or two. I've been to Napa before. I like red wine. I like cabs, and I also do like wine. I like farm. I like agriculture in general. But in fact, I'll tell you where I'm going to. If you look this up, Dave Del Dotto. Remember that name, Dave Del Dotto. Dave Del Dotto wrote a book called How to Make Nothing But Cash. I bought that book or something like that, or How to Make Nothing But Money or something like that. Anyways, and he was a drywaller, I think out of Fresno, California. And he got involved in real estate, and he used to have these infomercials on. This is like 30 years ago. And he had a house in Maui, and he would set up. Oh, you bought his course. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even know he had a course anymore. That's interesting to me. But he would set up a little, if you can imagine a little, like a little grandstand, maybe, I don't know, 6, 8 rows high and about 12, 15 people, like a little league, bleachers. And he sat that up facing the surf on the sand, and he would stand there with the waves behind him crashing and talk about real estate and how to make money and buy this or that. And I mean, things have been up and down, and I know he had some troubles and issues, and he hung it up in 1992. That was my understanding. But so I come across his name because it's a pretty unique name, Del Dotto. Well, he got into wine. He's an Italian guy anyways, but he got into wine. And so in Napa, he's got like now it's going to be 3 of the best tasting rooms. He's got some of the most awesome wine you've ever seen or tasted. Cabs, big cabs. Now he's got multiple vineyards, and he's doing his own estate grown stuff. And he got a ranking of 100 on one of his bottles at least by Robert Parker. And if you don't know who Robert Parker is like the aficionado of red wine, period. If Robert Parker says it's 100 or it's great, that wine begins selling like crazy, just immediately. He can make anybody a star. I mean, but he's got a palate for it. He's really amazing. But anyways, so Dave Del Dotto, who I'm just kind of a fan of him from way back. Come to find out, he's got these wineries. So I went to his vineyard and his tasting room. I've been there a couple times now, and I'm going to be going back there in September. I haven't met him yet. I'm hoping to meet him this next time. A buddy of mine was there. He's a VIP buyer, for himself. He drinks a lot of wine, and but he sent me a picture of him and Dave Del Dotto. He said Dave says hi. So I anticipate I'll be meeting him because it's like a VIP dinner that I'm going to. So chances are I'll be able to get to meet one of my earliest mentors. So that'll be kind of fun. But kind of lost track here. Maybe somebody can put me back on track here with a good question. Oh yeah, so Matt, you bought his course. Oh, wait, did you buy an old book or what did you buy? When you say you said, I think you're referring to Del Dotto, right? Oh yeah, and Carol, yeah, you know him too. That's good. But in all honesty, I can't even remember his course, to be quite honest. But I remember his name, and he's a hell of a salesman. I'll tell you that. He's a hell of a salesman. Oh, cassette tapes. Oh yeah. Well, it's an old one if it's cassette tapes, right? I don't even know if they do courses on cassette tapes. But I actually have hundreds of cassette. I mean, believe me, I'm somebody that I've read many books, many courses on tapes, and not just real estate, all kinds of stuff. I just tried to absorb as much of that stuff as I can. And I advise anybody, just take it in, whatever turns you on, just absorb it, because it's very difficult for me to study something I'm not interested in. I did pretty well as a student. I mean, I got out of high school quite early, but I was always pretty good at if I had to buckle down and study, man, I just soak it up, pass the test, and move on. Yeah, there you go, Matt. Yeah, I know. That's the thing is that things have changed. With the internet, information is so quick and readily available to you. You've got Zillow as a point of reference, and and some different things. And which there's an app I've learned about that's coming out that I'm going to share with all of you. And you're going to want this app, man. It is so cool. It's going to help you make money in this business. And you'll be hearing about that from me pretty soon. And but yeah, it's a whole different deal. When I used to look up real estate, I would spend like $500 on a little metal box about this big. Okay, it's about, I don't know, like 3x5 index cards would fit in it. But instead of 3x5 index cards, what they were 3x5 sheets of film, microfilm, and those would go down into a microfilm, what they called a microfiche reader, and you put it in. It would take this little tiny piece of print that you couldn't even read with the naked eye, and it would blow it up on a screen so you could read it, and it'd be the address and all that stuff of the owners of the property. And now then pretty soon it was at the touch of a computer, and I was logging in with computers with the dial tone and the modem that makes all the noise. If you haven't seen it, we used to have modems. When you used to connect to the internet in the beginning, you take your phone off the hook and plug it into a thing that had two speakers, a speaker and receiver, and it would take the data through sound through those speakers. That's how far I go back now. But and now, of course, just on it at your hand, you've got it all right there. So it's just amazing stuff that you have. Huh. Well, Rick, you'll have to tell me. Did we go silent, Rick? Let's see. Any stories of drastic measures, ex-tenant move out of commercial, then getting creative to get property performing? Yeah, I do. I got a few, actually. So, hey, right now, since Rick Rule just said we got a lost feed, can some of you confirm that you still hear me? Carol says, you still hear me, Carol? Sorry, guys. I just want to make sure I'm not wasting my time. Okay, good to go. Okay, so here, I'll give you a couple examples. Okay, so I bought a property for $140,000, 70 acres. I flipped it for $520,000. Okay, so do the math on that. Sounds like $380,000 profit, although about 6% of that, 30,000, I guess, went to agents, right? So $350,000 profit. I took $300,000 of that in a note. So they began paying me $2,450 a month. This was a really nice note that I created. So I took, the profit was in the 300s, but 250, or I think it was 250, or yeah, I think it was, actually might have been, I don't know, just say it was $300,000 note. But they paid $2,450 a month to me. And so it was a hell of a nice note, giving me about $30,000 a year income. And this thing was coming in like clockwork for many, many months. And this guy had cross-collateralized some properties. The bottom fell out, and now people stopped making payments to him. He stopped making payments on the people he owed money to, and I was one of those people he owed money to. So it got to a point where I said, hey, look, I either got to foreclose on you, or I'm going to give you the option to just deed the property back to me. And so that's what he said. He goes, yeah, I don't want you to foreclose on me, Tom. And I knew this guy. And so I said, but I can't go without money. And so this turned into a bad situation, because I had this beautiful $2,450 a month coming in for several years, and all of a sudden it stopped coming in, and now it's like, do I foreclose, or do you want to do what we call a deed in lieu of foreclosure? So he's going to deed me the property rather than me foreclose upon him. And so he deeded the property back to me, and then I immediately tried to resell the property. Now I was trying to sell this thing for like $300,000 now, because values went down, and land, believe me, when property values drop, it all comes out of the land, you know what I mean? I mean, the materials to build a house, that doesn't go down like land. Land goes down. It's the structure. It still costs the same or more to build. So what happened in that bad situation was I immediately tried to resell this property, because I got it back now, and I owned it free and clear because this guy was no longer making payments to me on it, and so began marketing it at 300,000. Well, this guy, because he'd been trying to sell the property while he was in foreclosure, somebody came back to him, and he felt like he could make a deal. So he said, "Hey Tom," he goes, "look," he goes, "man," he goes, "I got somebody that'll pay cash for your property, and they'll pay 240,000 cash." Now this is for a property I'd sold for 520 at one time, and I said, "Well, hey, I'm listening." And he said, "Okay," he goes, "look," he goes, "I just want 20 grand." And so we made a deal. He put me in touch with the guy. That guy bought the property for me. He paid $240,000 cash, and I gave a $20,000, finder's fee or commission, whatever you want to call it, to this other guy that I had, like I said, I'd almost had to foreclose, who had bought it from me before. So that's kind of like, that's kind of goes to what the question was. It's relative in as much as, what do you do when you have a bad situation? Well, man, like they say, you get handed lemons, you make lemonade, right? So that's what I did. I took a property that I got back that I didn't want. I liked that money coming in, and instead I turned it and made my lemonade. I got some money, so I got that cash, and then of course I just reinvested that in other deals too. Other situations like that. Yeah, I mean, I've had people, suddenly run into money trouble and have to move out. One time I had drug dealers, really weird, this is kind of weird. I had these drug dealers in one of my apartment buildings, and I got nervous, and I'll tell you why. These guys were, that's kind of a touchy subject, I guess. But the bottom line is, I knew they were drug dealers, and one day I heard one of them, and I'm not telling you the whole story, but I'm telling you as much as I feel comfortable telling you. But one of these guys was hollering out at a kid, a young kid that was walking by the sidewalk, and they were going back and forth talking about like a video game, like a PlayStation type game, but they were joking back and forth. But it gave me the impression that maybe that kid had been inside that apartment, and of course I'm a parent, and I just don't. So I went over to the guys the drug dealers, and I said, "Hey," I go, "those kids aren't coming into this place, are they?" And he goes, "Oh no, no, no." He says, "No, we mean that kid talk, smack once in a while about games and stuff," and I believed him, and that is how it was, and in the end, so many people complained about the amount of traffic coming in and out of this apartment that ultimately the cops came in, did a sting, busted them, caught them with the safe open, and they were gone. They were out of there. And but again, that happened. I'm talking about and I think I've told you guys this story before. So I owned 3 apartment buildings, and I was making nice rents, and everything was great. All of a sudden, I have miniature laundromats. Like I have a little laundromat in each apartment building that has maybe 4 washers and 4 to 8 dryers. You know what I mean? And these machines, they take quarters. And I had these heavy machines that actually had kind of armor over the coin operating part. And one day, there's like gang symbols, like just kind of weird looking gang symbols, in marker, in permanent marker on my beautiful white porcelain washers and dryers. Well, it's making the tenants nervous. And then also, now I've got, when I'm showing an apartment, or one of my managers is showing an apartment to rent the place, they look in the laundry room and they think, "Oh my God, this looks like gang type graffiti." And so now it's hurting me, right? Because now people are reluctant to rent and move in. They feel that, oh, this place is dangerous. And it wasn't dangerous. It wasn't dangerous. And so I'm going crazy over this because my machines are getting marked up. And even then, you go in there and you wipe them clean and you try to scrub that marker off. You know what? It comes off, but it's still shadowed there. You still see it, black permanent marker. It just turns into a light gray. And so the problem was the gang symbols weren't really disappearing. And so I'm just frustrated out of my mind out of this thing. and I'm trying to figure out who the hell is it. I'm staking it out. I'm watching. I want to catch who's marking these things up, and I'm imagining that it's a teenager, at a minimum. Well, I decide one day that I'm just going to dive into the dumpster. So I go into the dumpster and I start just ripping stuff, and I'm looking through paperwork and trash and just all this nasty shit I'm digging through. All of a sudden I find some fourth grader's homework. A fourth grader's homework. And guess what's next to his name? All the weird little gang graffiti symbols that are all over my laundry machines are all over his math homework. And I keep digging every bit. I mean, it was his art. It was absolutely his. I took that. I went to the parents. I said, look at this. I go, all this crap written all over these machines. It's your son. It is. I said, I want you guys out of here. Move out of here right now, or I'm going to sue you for the damages on my machines and everything else. And the woman started crying. And, she said, no matter how much my husband beats my son, he won't stop this kind of behavior. And I'm like, man, I am sorry. I hope you figure it out. Take him to a psychiatrist or whatever you got to do. I said, but you guys got to get out of here. And that's how I had to handle that. That little kid cost me thousands of dollars. And so I just couldn't take it anymore, and it's not my problem. I feel bad for her. I feel bad kicking him out, but you know what? Not that bad. All I really wanted to do was just get rid of him because, and the thing is they knew, it actually kind of pissed me off that they knew. I mean, I talked to every single parent. I knocked on every single door, and everybody used the laundry room. So they knew what they see on their kids' homework, or hopefully they know, because that's what was all over my machines. So that's another situation where, you just deal with it. You'll get things. And, I had a long time ago, and this is before I even owned a piece of property, I knew a guy that had a very, very large facility, maybe 100,000 square feet. And he had a big tenant that actually had nothing but freezers, frozen goods. And that tenant went bankrupt. And he didn't have his lease written well. He didn't have, like they have called an anti-bankruptcy clause you can put in your things. I have it in mine. But basically, he was at the mercy. The creditors froze this guy's assets, and his assets were frozen food or something interesting enough. And so my friend could not evict him, he couldn't remove him, he couldn't do anything, and he wasn't getting rent. And ultimately he got so far behind in his payments, he lost the whole deal. But, there's a situation that went bad that he couldn't really do much about. But, what I can tell you right now is the number one thing, because I don't want anybody to be afraid to invest in real estate. Like I say, you can't afford to not invest. You really can't afford not to invest. Because it's these investments that you make, and listen, I've had some very successful companies now that have made a lot of money. Guess what? The money that I've made from a successful company, as good as it's ever been, it's never compared to the wealth I've created with my investments in real estate. So, of course, I'm a giant believer in real estate, but that income can certainly far outweigh any wages you'll ever make, in a job, but they also can far outweigh, any money you might make if you happen to be the proprietor of a very successful company too. So it's so important that you invest. But like I say, and I'm jumping around a little bit, I know, but like even with when I say intuition, my gut feel is based on data. You know what I mean? If I don't feel good about this property or that property, it's not like I just feel weird because there's a cloud over it. It's more like, you know what? It's on the wrong side of the road. The economy isn't good. It's that kind of data that I'm already factoring in. Like maybe the economy's not so good. I don't like what side of the road it's on. I don't like this neighbor or that neighbor. So it's really not all intuition and gut feel. It's more of a gut feel based on the data that I've absorbed. And you will have that too if you don't already. But you got to listen to that. You got to listen to that when you. Sometimes you feel, I don't like the way this feels, or something doesn't seem right. Usually, it's not like that's just popped into your head. I think that's just you're subconsciously analyzing and going, you know what, this is eerily to familiar to things that I don't like, and it's probably real. That's been my experience, anyways. Um, but the main thing is really getting started, and like I said, the way to get started is really get your ideas a little bit, and then just take small steps. You know what I mean? A small step is better than nothing. If you just it's like me. I don't really want to be buying and selling houses that much, but it's been really treating me pretty well while I've been waiting for what I really want, which is to buy some a multi-million-dollar building, and make that I can, when I buy it, that I make 500,000 at one time. But what's happened instead is I bought a couple deals, and I'm going to make 300 grand on these, and maybe I'll buy one more thing, and so I'm still keeping up with my goal monetarily. It's not exactly, doesn't exactly fit the mold that I set, meaning commercial, or office. I like commercial and office. I like storefront. Um, but and I'm even, like I said, I've got this three acres that I want to develop, and I've been torn. Sometimes I think I want just a commercial center, a liquor store and a restaurant and bar, because those will last forever. Amazon isn't going to put a bar out of business. Amazon isn't going to put the liquor store out of business on my street, or on one of my properties. So more and more, even I think about, do I want 20 tenants, that I think are going to be okay, or maybe I want just a big asphalt lot, you know what I mean, with just cars, and a couple of bays for fixing and repairing and cleaning and washing, because then the real estate, the structures are minimal, and it's just a big paved, lot. And I've actually, am inclined to actually go into that business a little bit, because I do see money in cars, to be quite honest, Matt, like we were talking about earlier. I do think there's some money to be had in cars. It's nothing I want to do particularly, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't make a deal with some young guys that are aggressive car dealers, and I'll get a piece of their action, and as well as my rents and stuff, so I can make it worthwhile. Okay, Matt wrote a question: have you ever had to fill a vacant building with your own business, or thought about it? Yeah. Oh no. Of course. Yeah. Always. I've always rented to myself. Always. I'm the best tenant there is. I make my monthly payments. So, yeah. No. That's kind of the beauty. And by the way, that's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, Matt, because here's something else. When you're self-employed, in the beginning, your name is mud to the banks, for sure. But once established, once you become a company that's actually making money and respected, as far as they can look at you and go, oh yeah, no, this guy pays his bills, this guy is making some money. The beauty of that is that when you can go look at a commercial building that's maybe, say, 50% vacant, right? Well, that's the ideal situation. When you get a commercial property, the banks love to loan money on an owner user. In other words, as an investor, if I buy a property as an investor, they want me to put more money down than they would ask me to put down if I was actually going to be moving into the building. So the difference is at least 5%. So in other words, if I wanted to buy $1 million building and I'm an investor, they're going to say, hey, we want 20-30% down, and we'll loan you the difference. Okay, now, if I'm a business and I say, hey, I want to buy this and I'm going to move into it, they'll give me a better interest rate. They'll allow me to buy with only 20% down, not 25 or 30. They'll say 20 is acceptable. And so that's an advantage when you have a business, that when you go to, and see, I might buy a piece of property that maybe I'm not even going to move into it, maybe not. And but I'll tell the bank that, you know what, I think I'm going to move into this. I'm thinking I'm going to move into this thing. And so they'll give me, like, the brother-in-law deal. Oh yeah, you're owner occupied, we can give you a better rate, we can let you get in with 20% down, and then I'll buy the building. And, sometimes I'll move in, but sometimes maybe I'll change my mind and not move in, which is my prerogative. So, but there is a great. Now, you know what, Alpha, it's funny you talk about credit score. Believe it or not, I don't have that high of a credit score, but and there's reasons for that. But my banks don't care. They don't care. When they'll consider me like, when you're at my level of an investor, and I hope you all get there eventually, of course, you'll get more of a special banker. They consider you a high net worth individual. I think that's how they classify me, anyways. And so, when you start have borrowings, I don't know, over $5-10 million or whatever, they treat you differently. They assign you. They pay more special attention to you, and so what? And we're going to lose track of this because I'm reading at the same time. So forgive me if I get off track here. But what I was going to say is, I got to go back and read the question, see if I can remember. Oh yeah. So what I was going to say about filling a vacant building is, I can go to buy a building and say, yeah, I'm going to move into it. This is going to be my new building for my one company, and they'll give me a better deal. They'll give me less money down, and then maybe I'll buy it, and then I'll think, you know what, maybe I don't want to move into this one, and then I'll fill it with tenants, and then I'll go find another building to buy and say, you know what, I was going to buy that one, but now I decided I like this one better, and I want to buy this one too. In fact, that actually happened to me. I had a building I was going to buy, and it had some weird issues. In fact, if you get a chance, you got to watch this. This is really worth watching. So everybody try to remember this. I have a video within my videos that I've done called $1 million profit re-renting. And what I talk about is a building that I bought, a building I was going to buy that I couldn't buy, that I ended up renting at such a low rate that I was able to re-rent it, because I had the right to sublet. So I rented it, and then I re-rented it to another entity, and it made over $1 million. It was making about $240,000 a year. I think I was renting it for $3,000 to $5,000 a month on average from one entity, and then that entity was renting to another entity for $25,000, then $25,000. So it was making between $17,000 and $20,000 a month on this property. For like 7 years, I made that money. So imagine, just say on average $20,000 a month times 12, $240,000 times 7 years. That sounds like nearly $1.5 million, right? A little over $1.5 million. So that's being creative. Right? That's being creative, and that's making money on an asset. And like right now, I know people are renting, vacation homes from people yearly, and then they're re-renting them on Airbnb for 3 times as much. And so, that's the beauty of real estate. I say it all the time, is that there really are no rules. I'm not saying there's no rules, but there really are no rules when it comes to creative financing, creative management, renting, whatever. You can make a deal that you can sublet a property. So you rent it, and now you sublet it again over the term of the lease that you have it locked up for, and you can make, like I did. I made over $1 million on a property I didn't even own it. I mean, that's sweet, right? That's sweet. And those are the kinds of things that you can do. And you'll find out as you do more and more creative deals. And I'm not saying super creative, like crazy, outlandish. Like, sometimes you might get somebody to take a 6-month escrow. I did on my first deal. And that 6-month escrow that I had, they let me occupy it too. And because and the reason they let me occupy it is they were afraid somebody would vandalize the building. So they liked the idea that I was inside the building, even though it wasn't costing me any rent. Well, I moved in, And yeah, I was not just watching the property. I mean, I moved in. I had my cabinet shop in there, and I was saving about $1,500 a month. So over the course of 6 months, you know, $1,500 a month I'm saving for 6 months. That's $9,500, or $9,000, I guess. So there was my $10,000 down payment, my deposit, and so the main thing is get started. You know, if like I said, you know, the paralysis by analysis, you know, maybe the negative wife or the wife that's afraid or whatever. You know what? Just go to a smaller deal. Go to something smaller that you don't even have to ask the wife. You can buy it without her. You know what I mean? Whatever you got to do. Whatever you got to do. Because here's the problem. I really tell you, if you can just be self-motivated and do things on your own, it's power. I mean, I'm a lone operator. You know, I buy everything just me. I mean, I have entities that are owned by not just me, but my kids, you know, and that's more about me trying to take care of my kids in the future in the event of my death, and these assets become theirs anyways. So, but it's power to operate, to self-motivate all by yourself. All by yourself. You don't have to split the money with anyone. You get all the money, the profit you make. True, you own it. You have to find the wherewithal. You got to do it all on your own. But that's my preferred method. I don't need a cheerleader to say, yeah, do it. You know, I don't need that. Never have, don't want it. And it's power. I'm telling you, it's power. Just like, you know what I mean, I was running for almost 10 years and staying in pretty good shape. And then I quit. And I used to laugh at people that, I'd see at the gym that had somebody walking around, say, okay, counting their reps. But I got it later on. I realized, you know what? In some situations, I need to be accountable, and that's what I decided. What a coach or a physical whatever. I don't want to say therapist, whatever, but your trainer. A trainer is good for you because he's counting. He's making sure you're not cheating. He's making sure that you're getting all this done in a certain amount of time, and that's the beauty of a trainer. But when it comes to real estate investment, I mean, I've seen people buddy up and partner up, and then one partner kind of fails to have the enthusiasm, and then what it does, it's like a cancer. Then the other one doesn't either, and then nothing gets done. So you got to be able to self-motivate and do it on your own. That's power. And really, like, people want to be my partner. People know I make money. They know I go, you own that, you own this. I bump into people in a restaurant, and they'll say, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I had to check a few things. They go, oh, you own this one too? Yeah, I do. And that's, you know what I mean? That's what I hope all of you get, and that's why I made this blog, is just because, like I said, I've had such a charmed life, and it hasn't come without work. I mean, I do. I work my ass off. I have my whole life, and I enjoy it. I do. I enjoy it. And, I'm trying to get that same work ethic going with my boys, and, but you know what? I mean, I say I work my ass off, but how hard am I working? I mean, how hard, if you compare the amount of money I make by diligently working, this extra money that I make outside of my job or my business, I mean, you know what I mean? It's such a substantial amount of money, and it helps you so much throughout the rest of your life that in hindsight you go, you know what? Yeah, I worked hard, but it'd be a whole lot worse if I hadn't done it, because I might still be working and doing something I don't want to do just to survive. And so that's why I say, it doesn't matter if you're rich or not. It's the deal that matters. Remember that. It's the deal. And sometimes a person that doesn't make a lot of money, but sometimes they got a lot of extra free time for whatever reason. That free time is power. Free time is money. You have time to look for a deal. You have time to educate yourself on the market, on the properties that are around you. Don't squander that. When I had my cabinet shop, I worked my butt off, but I wasn't making enough money. I wasn't charging enough. That was my bad. I wasn't charging enough. But I had free time. If a deal came up, I would boom, head straight to the deal, sign up, and try to get things signed as quickly as I could. And I could do that because I had freedom, because I was self-employed. I didn't make any money. I was self-employed, not making any money, but I had freedom to go boom, sign that deal, make this deal. You know, I had cards that said, I buy houses under $50,000. I gave those to everybody and anybody I ever saw, every realtor. And they'd laugh when they first saw it, but then the phone would ring and they'd say, hey, I got your card here. I got a house under 50,000. Boom, I'd be straight over there. I'd drop everything because I was the boss. I'd go straight over. And you know what I mean? Or maybe you just got that kind of freedom in your job that the boss is cool and he'll say, hey, as long as you're doing your job, yeah, you can drop everything and go. Just make sure you take care of it when you get back. So, okay, so Matt's got a question, I think. I started with $1,000 investment, commercial property, and flipped it in a year, made $60K. Man, that's beautiful. I mean, think about the money. Think about how much money that is. You know, you made, like, what is that, 6,000%? That would be 60,000%, wouldn't it? You know, think about how long you'd have to put that in the bank. You know, even at 10%, before that would total 60. That takes 60 years, right? Yeah, more than your income at the time. Yeah, I get it. And it's extra income. It's extra income. So you got super lucky on timing, but I had an eye on the property and diligently researched for 2 years prior to the making an offer. And there's fear of offer rejection. It all worked in the end. Yeah. So, yeah, that's always going to happen. I mean, and so, no, but Matt, this is a great story. And so for anybody watching, please read this, because Matt, like me, has made a killing on a piece of property. And what you'll find out, Matt, if you don't know already, is that there's a deal every day somewhere. I don't know where it is, but you know what? If I can just find one of them every month, that's all I need. 12 deals a year, 12 deals like that, 12 times 6. What do we got there? That's man, I'm not thinking here. That's 70. That'd be 7,000 at that rate of what you got there. That'd be $720,000 in a year if you could do one a month like that. And you actually can do one a month. Not like that, maybe exactly, but I can tell you, I did do one a month deals that made $10,000, $15,000 a month. I did that regularly, and even at that, that's still about $120,000 to $180,000 a year, and I'm talking about I did this almost 30 years ago, and but yeah, the more money you have, and the more you make, what's kind of cool is you can start going into bigger deals. You can start to experiment, and you can find out where the easy money is, and then you can start to buy land. You can buy a piece of land and go, you know what? I'm going to buy a piece of land. It doesn't bring in income. In fact, I got to pay taxes on it every year. But I feel good about this. And then you can become a little bit of a speculator because you got so much income coming in and money that you've made that you can be a speculator. And there's great money to be made in speculating. But that's a game for the rich. Speculation is a game for people that can afford to buy and hold. And if you can't afford to do that, then, because I see people that'll have a job and then they go buy a piece of land and then they live for the payment on that piece of land. It takes all their energy and income for the next 10 years just to pay on this one extra piece of land. Where if they'd have just bought the land, flipped it, and did that and rinse and repeat over and over, or buy something they could buy that actually brought in enough income to cover the mortgage, plus, they would have been so much better off. Because when you buy a piece of land, and you don't have, extra income coming in, you're really kind of sentencing yourself to having to work. In other words, I call it the dog, or the tail wagging the dog, right? And it's one of the reasons I unloaded quite a bit of property in the last 10 years, because I'd say, man, I don't want to go through another downturn and have the tail wag the dog, meaning I'm the dog. I want to wag the tail. I want control. I want to do what I want to do. I want to wag the tail. What I don't want is to be so encumbered with so many, bills and assets that I have that I got to support that, it's the tail wagging the dog saying, hey, feed me. We need more money here. We need more money over here. A lot of times I equate when you have a lot of stuff and a lot of property and a lot of things, you got to watch them, you got to maintain them, but it kind of feels like tentacles. It feels like you got just tentacles going every direction, right? And a lot of times it feels like somebody's chewing on half of them all the time, and that could be like, hey, I need $5,000 over here for a new air conditioner. Hey, the roof's leaking, I need $5,000 over here for a new roof. In all these different directions. It's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. It's a great problem to have. In fact, I one of these days I'm going to do I'll do a video on what I call $5,000 to death. $5,000 to death, because it's actually a term that I used to somebody that used to work for me, and he came back to me 5 years later and he said, Tom, I'll never forget when you told me that you were being $5,000 to death. And I had to laugh because I didn't think twice about it when I said it to him, but it really stuck in his head, and I kind of think about it today, because now sometimes I feel like I'm $50,000 to death, okay? And I'm talking about $50,000 for a roof repair, $50,000 for, some other kind of stuff that has to be addressed, could be, other kind of issues with the property. But yeah, the $5,000 to death, and then eventually it's $50,000 to death, and then in the context that I'm talking, I haven't hit the $500,000 to death, but hopefully that'll be a problem someday. So let's see what else we got here. It opened my eyes, changed my opinion of money. Yeah. No, that's the thing. What you'll quickly find out, and that's what Matt's kind of going at here. Matt is saying it opened his eyes, and really what I tell everybody, I think I don't always say it, but this is how I feel. Money is a tool. I mean, money is like a hammer. You go out and make money with a hammer, right? Pounding nails. Well, you can take money. You can buy a piece of land and flip it. That's a tool, right? Takes that money to be able to buy, to turn, get the money back, make money on your money. Money is a tool like nothing else. I always say interest never sleeps, right? That sunk in hard when I heard that the first time. I thought, yeah, when I got a pickup I'm making payments on, and that interest is accruing in my sleep. I still have to keep paying it. But likewise, if I have a piece of real estate I've flipped and I've sold, and I'm taking payments on it, and I'm collecting 5 to 10%, annual interest, that interest isn't sleeping either, right? That interest is coming in, paying me, and it's offsetting the interest that I'm paying somebody else on my other loans that I have. So let's see, Alpha, let's see, what do you got here? Have you ever paid cash? Oh, yeah. Alpha, you must be new here. But no, I've the last 3 properties, actually, the last 5 properties I've paid cash. I paid $2.5 million cash for a commercial center. I paid another $1,050,000 or $1,150,000 for another building recently, and then I've paid cash for the last couple houses that I've paid cash for. So normally, that's not always the case, but I mean, I've had cash. I bought another property. I think I paid $1.1 million for it, and I put down $1.05 million cash. So I put $1.05 million down on $1.15 million building that I bought. But when I bought it, I also made it conditional because I was doing a 1031, so I needed to put I couldn't touch the money from one sale to the other. And I've talked about it before, 1031 tax deferred exchange. So, but I bought a property and put like $1.05 million down, had a loan for $50,000 on it. But I also made it contingent with the banks, or I arranged with the banks, I should say, that as soon as I closed it, they gave me a what we call a drawdown line. In other words, they gave me a line of credit for almost $1 million against the property that I just paid a little over $1 million on. They probably gave me an $800,000 line of credit, basically. But that 800,000. So in other words, I've got a property I'm buying for say $1.1 million. I put $1 million down. Now I have $100,000. At the same time, simultaneously, they've given me a line of credit for say $900,000. So it's sitting there waiting for me. I'm not paying, even though they have this $800,000 waiting for me. It's still in their bank. I'm not paying any interest on it until I start to take it. And so that's what I did. Is I did this tax deferred exchange, bought this property, almost paid 100% cash for it, but immediately had a ready line available of credit to draw from against it. And the reason that was is because that was power, right? Because now I have this thing, I'm not paying any interest on that money, so it's just sitting there waiting for me to draw down and pull away from. And now I'm just shopping, I'm looking, I'm waiting for a great deal. And then, oh, bam, here's a great deal for $250,000, $300,000. I just go write a check, I pay cash for that. Now, am I really paying cash for it? I'm paying cash for it, but the cash I'm using to pay for it is money that I'm borrowing from a different entity against a different property. And so, in the end, yeah, I've paid cash for a lot of properties, but it's kind of creative. I'm encumbering one property more with a loan so I can pay cash for another. So, but anyhow, I think that kind of covers the question and made the point I wanted to get across. Oh, okay, so Alpha, yeah, that is the question I answered, your last one. So, now the reason I don't worry about credit scores, let me get back to that because I don't think I finished up on that, is that, I mean, I don't have a bad credit score. In fact, I got it recently when I bought a new car for my wife. I was going to pay cash for her car, but what we decided is that we would let her, we pay almost all cash for it, and the remainder balance on the loan, I have my wife paying on it. Her specifically, because I married my wife, she was 18, I was 27. She's been a stay-at-home mom all these years. She's never needed credit. She still doesn't really, but we thought, okay, well, let's build your credit. It's about time. She's 40-something now. So what I did is we bought her a car. I had her buy a car, but we put like $20,000 down, so they gave her a loan for the difference. And so now she's building her credit. It's fun. It's kind of fun that she's building her credit in her 40s now. But she's, anyway, she's married to me, so she's okay. She's safe. But anyways, that being said, I think that covers the cash part of it. Okay, have you ever had a mentor growing up? Not like you think. Listen, I say what I kind of role model. There was a guy named Keith. He was a builder. I looked up to him. I thought, man, I want what he's got, right? I mean, that's kind of how I do it. I want what you got. I want what you got. And so when somebody has what I want, I listen to what they say. I watch what they do. They may not be sharing, like I'm just flat out telling you and sharing you and trying to articulate to you the best way that I can to tell you how I've done what I've done and how I do what I do. And, so is that a mentor? I don't know. I mean, it's video mentoring, I guess. But as far as somebody taking me by the hand and saying, hey, son, this is how you do it, no. My dad was not that guy. My mom was not that person. I was purely just somebody, my parents divorced, been on welfare, got powdered milk, and, the things that come along with welfare is, free lunch at school or discounted lunch at school, hand-me-downs, shitty clothes. I had all that stuff. In fact, I laughed when I was a kid. I remember I had shorts. We call them flood pants because, it's like way above your ankle. It just looks stupid. It looked stupid back in the 70s, And so I'm feeling very insecure about what I'm wearing and stuff. And my mom was terrible. She'd throw all the clothes in the laundry. She didn't care. Colored, white, she just didn't care. She threw everything in one thing. And so, of course, I got socks that are like kind of yellow and white, depending on what load they got washed with. And I remember I remember being in school. I'm already self-conscious enough about, these flood pants that I'm wearing and not very good clothes. And someone says, hey, look at McKay. He peed down one leg. And what it was is my mom's terrible laundry. I had a sock that was kind of yellow because she washed it with a yellow shirt, and then the other sock was white. And of course, I just put them on in the morning, half asleep. And so now I've got one sock that's kind of yellow and one that's white. And then I got some other kid, and I got some kid at school now teasing me over my crappy clothes. But those things stuck with me as I became older and became a working adult. And I thought, one thing was clear to me. I want money. Okay, I want money. In fact, maybe that kid ridiculing me over my yellow sock might have been one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because it was certainly uncomfortable, and it was certainly an incentive to want to have better things. So who knows? I don't know if I'm getting off track. Let me read Alpha. Have you ever paid? You already did that. Have you ever had a mentor? So yeah, no. The mentor I had was probably just maybe negative, things happening to me that made me want to make more, because I didn't, I don't want to deal with that stuff. Any stories on dividing and selling land prior to surveying? Special procedures involved? Let me think about that. Yeah, well, a little bit. I mean, sometimes you'll get deals where somebody's got a house, and when they bought their house, they bought the adjoining lot. And that can be a real prime cool deal, because the mentality, and I've been guilty of this too, is you kind of don't want to separate them. You feel like you want to sell them together, because it seems like such a shame. It's such a great property to have a double lot. But really, the fact is, if you can buy something like that that's already got an adjoining lot, buy it. Sell the house, sell the lot separately, and you'll make a lot more money. Now, there's things you can do, and I've done this too. Where did I do that? I'm trying to think where I did it. But you can do what's called a lot line, not a lot line adjustment, but a simple, if in most, I can't speak for every city, right? But in most cities, if you do a subdivision, it can lead to all kinds of bullshit, because the cities are just worse and worse. They want to make everything a gigantic frickin' hassle, no matter what. They just want to turn it into a pile of work. But if you can do just what we call a simple split, meaning you might buy a house that's on a big lot, and if you check the zoning and the ordinances, it may be big enough that you can split that lot. And usually when you just do a simple split, it's just one line down the middle of an existing lot. It's a much, much easier task to accomplish and to get through the city and to do that kind of a subdivision. So if you're just doing a single split, it's sometimes there's opportunities there where you buy a property and then you immediately just do a simple split. And I think I've done it, but in all honesty, I can't remember if I've actually done it or not. But I have several properties that I plan on doing it, and I feel like I've done it before, but in all honesty, I can't remember at the moment if I've done it or not. But it's certainly doable. So I don't know if that exactly answers that. I had another 50 acres 50-something acres that was split by a creek, and then that one was one that was real easy because it was divided by a body of water. It was a very simple task to go down and just say, lot A, lot B. So, and I'm showing I got a low battery warning here. So, yep, guys, I'm down to 6% on the laptop anyways. So, I don't know how long we've been on here, but we'll probably have to kill it here pretty quick. But so, any last minute questions or anything we, quickly we can talk about? Well, anyways, that's it. I know it's kind of started kind of late tonight, but I'm glad I flipped it on. I appreciate all the questions and everybody talking. And yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate the kind words. That's one of the things I'm actually trying to find. I'd like to get I'm trying to find a couple parcels, 10. No, I don't know. I'd like to find some subdivisions so when my boys, presumably when they get out of college, they're only 14 now, but presumably they're going to go to college, they'll get out, and then maybe when they're in their early 20s, I can kind of teach them to be like a general builder, and we'll build out some stuff, and who knows. But I think it's being a general builder, and I've done some general construction, and I've built homes and buildings and things like that. It's always it's not that hard. Just about being organized. It's really not that difficult to do. But it's really fun, and it really is fun. It really is fun to build. The city's bureaucracy and stupid crap that they put you through is not fun and is unnecessary. And hopefully those things are starting to change. I'm a real big fan of the president that we got right now. And one of the reasons is he's been eliminating about 15 EPA restrictions for every one new one that's passed. And believe me, that's the stuff that's killing business. And I've got my fingers in a lot of different businesses, so I do appreciate the more simplistic approach. But I don't want to make this I don't want to make this political. But yeah, we're down to 6%, so I don't have time to anyhow now. Anyways, hey, thanks Alpha, thanks Carol, Matt, Khalid, and everyone else that's popped in here, and and Rick too, and so, man, let's just I look forward to you guys making money and sharing it with me, and I'm sharing everything I can with you, and I look forward to you guys making some money, and I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to think that I maybe could help you get there. So yep, good night, Matt. Until next time, that's it. So Flip Anything USA, please subscribe. We're about to hit 1,000 subscribers. Last time I looked, we were at 987. So we're 13 subscribers, and we're going to hit that milestone of 1,000. So anyhow, please share and subscribe if you haven't already. And maybe we have a lot more people watching than are actually subscribed. So some of you folks that are watching and not subscribing, why don't you go ahead and subscribe tonight? Maybe you push me over to 1,000 by tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. Anyways, that's it for now. Flip Anything USA. Have a great night, everyone, and I appreciate it. And we'll just keep supporting each other and keep sharing. So that's it. Good night.